We apologize for the late start, but we had some technical issues to deal with, which we have. So we'll call the meeting to order and let's have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Commissioner Gossick Seidman,
Here.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Attorney Rubin,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie.
Present.
Thank you.
And I'm here also.
Sorry, Mayor. Sorry about that.
Okay, can we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
To the flag. Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does anyone have any additions or deletions for the agenda?
I do, if I could. If the commission would oblige us, we'd like to remove the minutes. There's a series of errors that need to be corrected on each set. So if we could just postpone the review until the June 1st meeting, and then we'll resubmit those.
Okay, and that's for all of them.
All of them, yep.
Okay, anything else, anyone? If not, can we have a motion to accept the minutes with that one change?
I move we accept the minutes with the exception of the minutes from prior meetings.
All in favor, just say aye.
Mayor, I think we're removing all the minutes. We're voting to remove
All
them.
of them. All of it.
Remove them from the agenda.
Well, that's what I said, that
Oh, yeah, okay.
the agenda without the minutes from the prior
Okay,
meetings.
great. Yes, thank
On
you.
the prior meetings, plural.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 So for the record, you're removing item 11E. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to presentations and proclamations, of which we have 3. The first is the 153rd anniversary of Memorial Day, 153rd, wow. Whereas the last Monday in May is set aside each year to honor our servicemen and women who answered the call of duty and made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our great nation. And whereas in May 1868, Major General John A. Logan called for a nationwide day of remembrance to pay tribute to those who gave their lives serving our country, which would officially be designated Memorial Day by Congress. And whereas May 31st, 2021 will mark the 153rd anniversary of Memorial Day. And whereas our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, and merchant Marines, many of whom paid the ultimate sacrifice to ensure our country remains the land of the free, have made our state and nation immensely proud. And whereas the state of Florida is recognized as one of the most military and veteran-friendly states in the nation, with more than 1.5 million veterans living in Florida. And whereas Memorial Day is the opportunity to honor and remember the men and women of the armed forces who gave the ultimate sacrifice in defending our freedoms, we also should express our gratitude and sympathy to our Gold Star families. We must remember all those who have died for our great nation and honor those who continue to serve our nation every day. Now, therefore, I, Douglas Hillman, Mayor of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, on behalf of the Town Commission, do hereby proclaim May 31st, 2021 as Memorial Day. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand to cause the official seal of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, to be affixed this 18th day of May 2021. The next is Public Works. Come on in, guys. This is the 61st annual National Public Works Week, May 16th through the 22nd. Stronger Together is the code that they work under. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital importance to the sustainability and resilience and to the public health, high quality of life and well-being of the citizens in the town of Highland Beach. And whereas the infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, employees at all levels of government and in the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is the public interest for the citizens in the town of Highland Beach to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and the understanding of the importance of the public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, be it now, therefore, I, Douglas Hillman, Mayor of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, on behalf of the Town Commission, do hereby designate the week of May 16 through 22 as National Public Works Week. I encourage all citizens of the town of Highland Beach to join with the representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. In witness, wherefore, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, to be affixed this 18th day of May 2021. Congratulations.
Very nice.
Get us all in here somehow. Thank you. The next is National Safe Voting Week proclamation. National Safe Voting Week is May 22nd through May 28th. For nearly 100 million Americans, voting continues to be a popular recreational activity. From coast to coast and everywhere in between, people are taking to the water and enjoying time together, voting, sailing, paddling, and fishing. During National Safe Voting Week, the U.S. Coast Guard and its federal, state, and local safe voting partners encourage all voters to explore and enjoy America's beautiful waters responsibly. Safe voting begins with preparation. The Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most of the voting accidents, and that life jackets could prevent nearly 86% of the voting fatalities. The basic voting safety procedures, carrying life-saving, emergency, distress, and communications equipment, wearing life jackets, attending safe voting courses, participating in free boat safety checks, and staying sober when navigating. We can help ensure voters on America's coastal, inland, and offshore waters stay safe through the season. National Safe Voting Week is observed to bring attention to the important life-saving tips for recreational voters so they can have a safer, more fun experience out on the water throughout the year. Whereas on average, 600 people die each year in voting-related accidents in the US, 79% of these fatalities are caused by drowning. And whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment and not by the boat, the equipment, or environmental factors. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today had they worn life jackets. Now, therefore, I, Douglas Hillman, Mayor of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, on behalf of the town commissioners, do hereby support the goals of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim May 22 through 28, 2021 as National Safe Boating Week. I encourage all citizens of the town of Highland Beach who boat to practice safe boating habits, wear life jackets at all times while boating. In witness, wherefore, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, to be affixed this 18th day of May 2021. And I believe we have a guest with us, Mr. Baez. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
I'm glad you're here with us, and the mic is all yours. So please share with us your thoughts.
I really appreciate the invitation, and I really appreciate the proclamation. This is a first for our flotilla. When we were doing our proclamations for National Safe Boating Week, somebody mentioned that the past flotilla commanders have not had the chance to get the proclamation from Highland Beach. So I put it on my agenda to make it happen this year, because we are literally 2 blocks from you guys. So we're neighbors.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your carving some time out of your calendar to be with us. We'll make sure that you get your copy here. And we are a big boating community, obviously.
Yes, for me, it's very. It was very personal, you could say, that I wanted to get the proclamation for you guys, because when I moved to Florida, my first job was in Highland Beach. It was in Toscana condominiums. So my heart is very buried in Highland Beach.
The 2 commissioners to my left are both boaters.
Oh, perfect. Then we're starting in-person meetings soon. Right now we're doing Zoom meetings, but we do meetings once a month. So I will make sure to submit an invitation to you guys if you would like to attend.
Excellent. If you have any comments or questions, go right ahead and jump in.
I just wanted to say again, thank you so much. And it's an honor to be here with all of you guys. And I appreciate all the time and effort that everyone put in for the proclamation, and we're here to serve you and the community.
Excellent. I think this Commissioner Gossip Seidman might have something to say.
Well, I thought I'd just add that my whole family took the safe boating course, and my kids were driving boats legally before they drove cars. And our community has rescued or pulled in at least 7 stranded vessels or stricken vessels that we know of. So
Wow.
we're pretty good about that in our town, and I'm sure we'll continue that. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. And like I said, we're here for anything you need. And I hope we can have a close bond and relationship from now on. Whatever you guys need, you can call us and we'll be there.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
My pleasure. And thank you.
Bye-bye now. Okay. Moving on, we move on to announcements. I believe we have a public comments from Greg Harrington. Please. Hold on a minute. We have to make sure your mic is working.
Greg Harrington. I'm a resident of Highland Beach, Ocean Terrace. Been here about 10 years. I'm bringing, 2018, I addressed this commission about a problem here in Highland Beach. And it was about the bicycle groups, the large, uncontrolled bicycle groups that come through Highland Beach. I've had numerous conversations with the chief, And like I said, I spoke to the commission. It's a huge problem. Even when I talked to the town manager, he was aware of it. And I probably have about 50 residents on my email trail that has major problems with them. Last June, I actually had a problem when one of them tried to overtake my vehicle, and basically it was ridiculous what they do. Even on May 4th, when I was going to work, I am a captain for American Airlines. At 7 p.m., I'm going southbound here on Highland Beach to go to my base at Miami International Airport. I am following 80 plus bicyclers, all in the middle of the street. And to my demise, or so shock, I should say, when I get to the end of Highland Beach, there's 2 Highland Beach police officers sitting there, one on east and west side of the road. They went right by the police officers. They didn't do anything. I even stopped and asked the officer if he observed them. He said he did. And I asked him, why didn't they do anything? I think due from the chief, they've been given orders, selective enforcement of the law. They're turning a blind eye to this. I've emailed the chief, and it's funny because my last few emails become unresponsive from him. It's a huge problem, and the police are not enforcing it. I've seen them many times. I have started my own task force, videotaping. The police know when these groups come through here. They tell me it's Sunday and Tuesday night are the bad groups. They need to do something. Last time I came here, I addressed the commission, nothing ever happened. I requested signs to be put up. I'm not going to waste the time because it'd take me 20 minutes, but all of you can go through your lawyer or investigate yourself. I unfortunately have the bicycle laws memorized, unfortunately, due to last year's incident. They are not allowed to do that. They're supposed to be single file, only 2 and 2 when they're passing, and they can only do that when they're not impeding traffic. They don't have the right to ride 2 and 2. I have multiple pictures, videos of them all the way down to the yellow line. So in the shortest of time, I want to bring this to your attention, and I'll email everybody here with a follow-up, and I would like a follow-up back or a commission to be composed that addresses this issue. I am also, I'm going to sue this biker. We are in a civil suit, and I won't even get into details of the case that I will be probably following up with a lawsuit against the Highland Police Department. But they have to do their job. We are residents here. Their job is to enforce the law. If they would just have taken 5% of the efforts they took when they were trying to have us not walk on our private beach when this virus first started, if they could just take that effort and stop these bicyclers when they come through here. I mean, I've got residents tell me they're spitting on their cars, they're flipping them off, they flipped me off when you pass them properly. They come up and take, I have multiple times that residents told me they've come within inches of their car. Because what happens when you pass these large groups, they're running 25 miles an hour because they think they're in some race in Paris or something. And they're not supposed to be transporting themselves through the, without a permit this large. Then they come up to your vehicle because now they're trying to pass you. They're like in this race with vehicles. First, that's illegal. They're not given proper passing when they pass a vehicle, overtaking a vehicle, not maintaining proper distance to the vehicle. They come with inches of your vehicle. And they say, then you have to pass them again. And then, on a Saturday or a busy day, you can't go 35 miles an hour. We all know that. You're actually transporting through here about 25 miles an hour, which is a safer speed. And here they come at 28 miles an hour, overtaking your vehicle again. But I want to bring this to your attention. It has to be addressed this time. I am actually have citizens. I mean, I have citizens that are in houses that pay over $300,000. I have their ears and their attention. So I don't just speak for myself. So I don't know if I have to bring 80, 100, 300 people down here to get somebody's attention. But I'm telling you, I'm speaking for a lot of people, and this has to stop. And what was more importantly, the police has to do their jobs. And if we have a police chief that can't do their job, then we get a new police chief. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to board vacancies. There are 2 for Board of Adjustments and Appeals. There's 1 for Code Enforcement. There's 3 for Financial Advisory, 1 for Planning, 4 for Natural Resources. Upcoming meetings. The 25th at 4 p.m. is the Town Commission special meeting. That's next week. That's the meeting for reviewing the specifics and the timeframes on the tasks for fire rescue.
And we'll do it in here. We're gonna get a table set up so you can have that same environment, but then we could use the screens and the technology to broadcast it. So
Okay, and John, you'll be able to participate on Zoom.
Yes.
Then there's charter review on the 26th. On the 1st is the regular town commission meeting. There's a code enforcement on the 8th, planning board on the 10th. There's a board action report for information only. I'm sure we all went through it. Then we need a discussion on charter review board. I'm going to turn that over to you, Marshall.
So do we want to do this discussion here or at D, 11D when we're looking at appointments? We could do it at either location. We jump in now if you want, that's fine.
Want to knock it off now? I'll leave it up to my associates.
Yeah.
Everybody cool doing it now? Yes?
Okay.
Yep, let's do it now.
So you saw an email yesterday. We took a deeper dive in there. There was a request to make sure everything was in the right order, in the right place. And we had, it all kind of started when we had the resignation of Mr. Kratzky from the Charter Review Board. We went in and started looking at it. I was speaking with Glenn yesterday. We see in section 299C, it requires, or basically it's almost like a resign to run component of our local ordinances where you can't serve on more than one board. You just can't. Even though we historically may have had that happening, that provision was not adhered to in the past. So what that it says is that basically an individual has to offer a conditional resignation from their current position. And once they're appointed to a new board, that becomes the new date or the effective date of their resignation. So you can't serve on two boards. So that puts us in a little bit of a predicament here because the only ones really interested currently sit on boards and committees. So I think there's one, Mr. Powell is currently not serving, but then we would basically have three people on the charter review because every other person is on a advisory board. So that puts us in a situation where there's a series of options that are available. We could postpone the charter review board actions for a little while, take care of this provision if you're so inclined to remove this provision and allow for to align with your 19021R, whatever the resolution that on your appointment process that said only on advisory boards via action of the commission.
How long would it take to do that?
Couple meetings,
Two
we
meetings.
could be done by the end of June. So we could fire back up in July and move forward. And then we can clear up the appointments and proceed on a normal course. And it doesn't matter, you can appoint at those that you wish to have appointed. Other options is the clean way is just ask those individuals if they resign their current post, they serve on the charter review board. When that work is concluded, they could apply back to sit on a advisory board again. It's very clean. We could test Len's skill set and we could pass a resolution where you basically force their resignation through action, saying that they will be resigning their post on their current. And upon conclusion of the charter review board work, they are automatically placed back onto their pre-existing boards or advisory boards. So you could kind of do it that way. It's cleaner just to have them do the extra steps, but technically you could pass a resolution saying these 2 or 3 individuals that are advisory boards are hereby removed from their appointments. Upon conclusion of the charter review board, they can go back when they're done with their work. So that's kind of where we're at. We have to figure what we want to do here because I know that Mr. Powell was interested. He's not on a board, so you could conceivably have 3 persons on the charter review board, but everybody else interested is on an advisory board. There's nobody else after them that it's interested. So we have to address this issue.
I think it's only, what three? I know it's Mr. Ty, and then
Yeah.
you would say Mr. Powell, and who
And
else?
Donaldson is not on an
Oh, and
active.
Donaldson.
So there's three that are not, that don't need to resign, could be immediately appointed, but the rest are all advisory. So Eve, Dr. Greenwald, Ron, Barry, they're all board members currently. So they would all have to resign and then get reappointed it potentially afterwards.
Well, that isn't really a surprise because we ask that it's be people who are interested in what's going on in the town, and people who are interested in what's going on in the town have a tendency to be on advisory boards.
Right. Seems to me as though we know we have a problem getting qualified people on our boards to begin with. So I think we should do both. I think we should change that requirement where the commission has the ability to allow someone to serve on more than one board. And in the meantime, those three people, well, it's two now, but if Dr. Greenwald comes on, it would be three. They would resign temporarily from the board and serve on the charter
Yeah.
board. I think we do both.
Okay. Also, I just thought of something. You
See what
could
everybody
exempt the
else-
charter review board too. And special committees. You could also, it's the same
It would be-
effect.
Yeah, it's committees and boards.
Yeah, you could say the charter review board, notwithstanding, does these rules don't apply because it's a once every decade board, so you don't have to worry about it as much. So,
But was charter review established by resolution?
Yep.
Well, then it falls within the code definition. Problem.
I don't think we want
We
to slow
can't
down.
make an
the-
exemption for it, though?
Well, without changing the code, because the code defines board as any board that's established by ordinance or resolution. And I know it's in the charter that you're supposed to do charter, but you did adopt a resolution establishing the board. So
but if you didn't do it by resolution,
then maybe you could get away with it, but I thought you did do it by resolution.
we could rescind that resolution and just do a direct appointment by action of the commission. But it doesn't get around the spirit and intent. I don't want to play that game here. I'm just saying if we didn't have a resolution, it could potentially be a unique board where you don't go through the resolution process. But
It's simpler, it's clean.
yeah,
Just let
Let
them
them
resign
resign
and then,
for 2 months,
right.
then get them back on because we're going to change it where they can serve on two at a time. At the call of the commission.
Fair. We do have.
I agree.
I agree, but I wanted to say we do have Mr. Powell available, and that would bring the board to 4 people. And we could establish that, 3 rather. And then we could proceed, as you just stated, with the resolution at the same time. And secondly, I want to add that I still question if we allow more than one person from a different board to serve on the charter review board and then return to their boards, such as the finance. I just think that's a possible sunshine law and/or resolution conflict.
I don't see it as any conflict at all. In fact, I see it just the opposite. I think if somebody is qualified to serve on a board like finance, they're eminently qualified to serve on a charter board, particularly with the example of they're going to be dealing with the cap on spending. I mean,
Sure.
who's better qualified to deal with that than somebody that understands finance?
I get it
So, and I
totally.
think it's the exact opposite.
It's not that they're not qualified, just want to make sure it's done in the spirit of law, and that's what I'm asking Len about.
Yeah, and Mr. Torsivi, he was going to confirm with the Commission on Ethics. I didn't hear back from before I left for this meeting. So as soon as that's confirmed, it'll be relayed back to the
Sure.
commission.
Well,
just want a
obviously,
clean-
if it's a
a clean-
violation of ethics, you can't do it.
Yeah, I just want a clean process is all. And
I'm with you.
Let me tell you, I think that some of our board members, including these we're speaking of, are eminently qualified. They're current on town issues. It's terrific how that has been an asset to our community. At the same time, I'm not opposed to having new persons come on board to certain boards. And in the case of Mr. Kotsky, who is immediately not available, or Mr. Powell, maybe we could also speak to them or have Marshall's office speak to them about coming on board some of these other vacancies.
Be great.
Because they're willing to step up, and the charter board is short-lived, but these other boards are ongoing. So if we could pursue that outlet.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I was working with the chairman of the planning board, trying to find somebody. I went through 4 individuals and I got turned down. I mean, it wasn't strike 3 and you're out, it was strike 4 and you're out. Okay. And obviously they were qualified people that I was going after. They just don't want to serve, and they have a right not to serve. I'm not suggesting they're bad people. They just, some of them, 2 of them watched board meetings and they said, nah, it's not for me. It's hard to get good people that want to put the time in. Okay, so let's go on both fronts. Let's make sure we don't have an ethics issue.
So both fronts, meaning we're going to change the ordinance.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, we're going to ask those that are currently appointed to resign their post for whatever the 6 weeks it takes to change this ordinance.
Right.
And then they'll, with the understanding that they'll most likely be appointed back to.
Right.
So did you want to wait on appointing another person? Because you could pull from that and they would be required to do the same thing.
No, you got a meeting coming up in a few days. I mean, the charter review is terribly important. It has to be done in, I'm not going to say short order, but they have a calendar that they have agreed to. And I don't think we want to disrupt it. And let's move on. Why should we wait?
But we'll still be one person short. We're going to
Yeah,
handle
well,
that on 11D,
let's-
or want to do it?
Let's decide on that today.
Mayor,
Okay.
could I recommend seeing if Mr. Powell is still available? And who's to say we can't increase the number of seats here from the dais for this board if we find that 2 or 3 other gentlemen and ladies are available to be put on it? We don't have to keep it to 5. We could make it 7. Is that a possibility? I'm just looking at all options.
Well, it's a possibility, but we all agreed 5 is optimal.
I understand, but Mr. Powell's available now and we have a meeting in 2 days. I'm just saying if he were available, we could appoint him today,
We could.
just as an option.
Who is Mr. Powell?
No, he's in the packet that we were given. Or we could delay the meeting. We could reschedule the meeting. I mean, I don't know Mr. Powell personally, but he had credentials that were impressive. I think I have it.
Is it Commissioner Gossett-Seidman that gets to choose since it was the individual that she chose?
Say again, please.
Is it Commissioner Gossett-Seidman that gets to choose the individual since it was her initial choice that?
I would
withdrew?
think that's fair. It was her pick that we lost, so I would think she should have the pick.
I'm fine with having all of us make decisions on this. I'm not, being picky. I'm just trying to get the right people and get an efficient process. So either we could appoint Mr. Powell or we could change the meeting in 2 days to perhaps 2 weeks. Because we don't have enough people to have do we have enough people to have a meeting in 2 days?
Sure, you do.
Yeah,
We do.
because quorum is 3, right? And you would have 3.
We have the 3 confirmed. All right, well, let's vote on it. I'm fine either way.
Well, you have 4 currently serving, so you got to pick the 5th to fill in. And we had it with 4 the first meeting. So with today's appointment, you would have a full charter board, and then I just have to reach out to Mr. Riami and Ms. Rosen to make sure that they're okay with the resignation process. And if they're okay, we're right back on track.
Well, then it looks like it comes down to this Mr. Powell or Dr. Greenwood. Those would probably be the 2 most logical potentials.
Sure.
Can somebody grab the paperwork on Mr. Powell so we can all take a look at it?
Okay, so it's on for 11D, so we can get that and just continue on with the agenda.
Yeah, let's
We'll
keep
come back
going,
for the appointment
and then we'll come
process.
back to this.
I'd like all of us to make the decision because I don't want it to be anything personal on me. I think we all just want the right thing for the town. And so we'll make a decision or even appoint an alternate, which I suggested in the beginning.
Well, the alternate doesn't work. We talked about that.
It doesn't.
last-
Okay, I still like that idea, but okay.
Okay, so let's move on and then we'll come back to it. ordinances. A, page 17. This is ordinance number 2021-005, modifying the residency requirements. Here we are. This is the second read. If we can all take a look, page 17.
Yep. So again, this is second read, no changes since the last first read. So I can answer any questions.
I didn't have any questions or changes. Does anybody have any questions or comments or changes?
I have a- I found a precedent in the city of West Palm Beach. They also allow board members who are not fully in compliance with their residency requirements to serve on boards where their individual histories and backgrounds are of great help and information to the town.
Yeah, if memory serves me right, I think they have business people that have
Yes, sir.
businesses in the town.
So we do have a bigger city holding a similar ordinance, which is supportive of this.
Okay, if we're all good, let's
Good.
motion on it.
We do have to read by title.
We need it
Yeah, we
right.
do. It's public hearing 2:15. It's open, second read. So we just need a motion for the title of ordinance 2021-005.
You want me to read by title? I mean,
Sure.
okay,
That'd be great.
I'll go ahead.
That'd
Thank
be
you,
awesome.
sir. An ordinance of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 2 Administration, Article 5, Boards and Committees, Division 1, generally of the Town Code of Ordinances by amending Section 2-99, Procedure for Appointment and Filling of Vacancies, Qualification for Membership of Boards and Committees, Terms, to define the residency requirements to serve on town boards and committees, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability and codification, and providing for an effective date.
First reading was on the 4th. I'll make the motion to accept and pass ordinance number 2021-005.
Second,
We need a roll call.
Yes.
You want to do it, Marshall?
Yep. Commissioner David,
yes.
Mayor Hillman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett Seidman,
Yes,
Mr. Shoemaker, Commissioner Shoemaker. I forgot he's not, I looked up when he wasn't there.
Yes, no, I'm here.
Are you voting yes?
Yes, can you hear me? Give me a break.
Let's move on to the next proposed ordinance amending section 30-66 other requirements and section 30-68 supplemental district regulations of the zoning code chapter 30 can be found on page 23. Ingrid, do you want to take this one?
Take my mask off. Okay. If the commission recalls, back on May 4th, you did review a proposed ordinance. This was more on an introductory basis. You did come up with some consensus. I provided an overview of that consensus on page 23 of your packets. And I'll just go over those briefly. Again, this is pertaining to the encroachments for walkways and other hard surfaces that are butting a waterway, canal, or lake. So again, consensus from the commission on May 4th was to eliminate the total encroachment threshold of 50%. You recall this was proposed by staff, and allow the hard surfaces basically to encroach up to the property line abutting the water, so long as there is an accommodation for drainage. If you look at page 27 and 28 of your packets, you'll see the actual proposed ordinance. We tweaked the language a little bit with regards to up to the property line. We went ahead and added a reference to the seawall or property line, whichever one is further landward. Also, consensus from the commission was to remove the reference to pool decks and decks in section 30-68 F1C. If you recall, that's the swimming pool section of the code and the zoning code. Given that 30-66, the encroachment section in the zoning code, already references allowable encroachments, including hard surfaces for walking, sitting, and gathering. And then lastly, again, in the swimming pool section, there was a component with regards to screen enclosures. We've gone ahead and just cut that out of the swimming pool section and incorporated into the encroachment section of the code, which really is the appropriate place to place it because it is truly an encroachment into a building setback. So we basically kept that screen enclosure language verbatim, again, keeping it at 5 feet, but again, placing it in the encroachment section of the code. I will advise the commission that this proposed ordinance did go before the planning board on May 13th, and they did recommend approval, and the motion to carry 5-0. And again, just wanted to make sure that the commission is clear. When you look on page 24 of your packets, or if you want to just stay on the ordinance on page 27, thank you. Again, when you look at 30-66C, just be mindful that these encroachments apply to all the residential zoning districts of the town. So be mindful that this may apply to condos. We do have several condominiums that have green space, right? That is up to the seawall. So they may be able to take advantage. Now there is a little bit of nuance there. Several condos do have approvals from the 1970s or 80s. They may have been approved as a residential plan unit development. Therefore, they may have their own parameters that were approved. So we would have to, as staff, look at those approved plans, make sure any encroachment may not be inconsistent with those approved plans. There's a little bit of nuance there. I just wanted to be sure that you all were aware that that encroachment section applies to all zoning districts, both single family and multi-family. So I just want to make that clarity. I'll be glad to address any questions.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
If a body of water is privately owned, it's no longer a public body of water.
Mhm.
Therefore, this would not apply. Is that correct?
Well, it does read waterway, lake, or canal. I don't know that there are any private waterways in the town. I know that the Army Corps does regulate all the water bodies, whether it's a lake or canal in the town. Staff actually met with Army Corps back in March of 2020, and they've made that very clear. Because the code in the accessory marine facilities talks about that the Army Corps can agree to or permit a certain amount of extension into the waterway, like an accessory marine facility. The code says you can go 5 feet into the waterway or an amount determined by the Army Corps of Engineers. So they did clarify that they have that authority, but as far as private, I don't know that that's necessarily the case here.
So a private marina, let's say, the water itself
Uh-huh.
is public, even though the marina is private.
I would say
That's a
that.
question.
yeah,
These aren't
I-
statements, these
yeah.
are questions.
I don't know, it's Len, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought there were some
Were
of
there?
those marinas in the town that showed private ownership on Papa.
But I know that the property line goes out into the water. Is that what you're
Right,
talking
or
about?
I
Yeah.
think they show private ownership of some
Oh,
of
okay.
the, but the way the ordinance is drafted, it would not matter. It does not distinguish between public and private
Yeah, I don't
water.
see
No, it
anywhere where
says-
it says-
That's why I'm asking, because F says.
Oh,
public
F,
body of
public,
water.
oh, I was looking at A, but thank you, Mayor. That was for the screen enclosure, so that did reference public,
Oh, okay, yes, I did take that verbatim.
right?
I mean,
Should
we
we
could
strike
revise that.
Mayor?
Yeah.
If it's of any help, in around 2016, the community of Bellito employed, we actually phoned the Army Corps to determine the ownership of the 2 lakes within town, within Bellito's confines. And the Army Corps stated, absolutely, they have full control of all waterways in the state of Florida, regardless of where they are, intracoastal, lakes, canals, side canals. They have full control. There are a few ownership issues which Mr. Rubin is aware of in other communities for riparian lands, and that's following through in the court system right now. But they have full control of all waterways regardless of the marinas, whereas the ownership of docks and lifts is private. The water is not. Because we wanted to find out who owned the lakes, and actually the town owns them, but the Army Corps still has control and ownership of the riparian lands.
Right. They have regulatory authority over
Right.
everything.
Correct,
That
that's the
doesn't-
correct term.
Whether they control it or not doesn't make it public versus private.
It's all public. That's the
Mm.
problem. Waterways are all
know.
public. The town has no authority to halt anyone traversing any body of water within this town.
Mr. Mayor,
I just don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
just a question. You bring up a interesting point. So I think we're all assuming all water and all canals and waterways, it's all public. So if a property owner was able to create a pond that's landlocked and he owns all the land around the pond, then none of this applies to him or that owner, as I understand it. Now,
One would,
likely that we'd have someone do that, but that could happen.
yeah, I mean, one would think what you just said is valid.
I was under the impression that the Army Corps of Engineers, it was for navigable waters.
They have
Yeah.
regulatory authority
Right,
over
so
all
that if
navigable
you've got a
waters.
small pond that you can't navigate, I would think you would own that,
Right. And
which is navigable.
what Commissioner Gossett-Simon was saying, there's actually a recent case that came through. If it's navigable, then the public can traverse it regardless of the underlying ownership, which is, I think, what you're getting at.
Oh, and I know that with
Yeah,
the sanctuary, they have tried in the past to keep people out of their canals unsuccessfully because kayakers and they're allowed to go in there as long as they do not go on the land, they don't go on a dock.
Right, right.
They can go
Okay.
up and down.
I'm good. Thank you. Anybody, anything else?
Yeah, I guess I have, for, A, 3066 1A. To me, it's not clear that it's permissible to do, impervious and non-porous materials. So I guess I'm just wondering if we should be a little bit more direct. So notwithstanding the foregoing, when such walkways, patios, and other hard surfaces, can we be more clear and say such hard surfaces are, I'm not saying this right, but whatever the right way is, are permissible to be non-porous and impervious? Because
But it says that, it says they're not required to be porous or
so
pervious, which means that they can be.
that's so
impervious.
confusing
But
to me.
that's-
Is there a more direct way to say that, or is this really the right way to say it?
Well, it does say that it's not required, but we do encourage it, and we can remove the encourage.
But you could.
No, I liked the encourage.
Okay.
I mean, if we want to encourage people to put porous pervious materials, but I just wanted to make it clearer, because it wasn't clear to me when I read this, that we can make these hard surfaces.
Are permissible, but are encouraged to be constructed of porous materials and may encroach the property.
Like are permissible to be impervious and non-porous. I don't know. I
I
don't
would
know
just say,
what-
you could just say permissible. I think that's the only word you take out, not required, and say they're permissible, because you said notwithstanding the foregoing, these hard surfaces, patties, walkways that abut a waterway canal are, as such hard surfaces are permissible, but are encouraged to be, so it says they're permissible, you can do it, but
Well,
we're encouraging the porous nature of it,
in the first,
and you may encroach the property line.
the first sentence says, other hard surfaces shall be constructed of porous pervious materials. So these hard surfaces are porous and pervious. So I'm saying, and when we are saying notwithstanding the foregoing, I want to clarify that the hard surfaces can be impervious and non-porous. nowhere, like in the beginning, we say the hard surfaces have to be porous and pervious, but nowhere later on do we say that the impervious and non-porous surfaces are permissible. It's not clear to me at all.
Fortunately, most statutes are
I know,
written in language that
but that's like
isn't
this, but
necessarily clear.
I'm
It's
just
like,
afraid.
Although you can, we would prefer you don't and you do this. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
I would
by
suggest we
saying
make it
not
more clear.
required, it means that it's okay to do it.
Yeah, but it's not even, so it's saying hard, so before, okay, yeah, I guess that is so confusing to me. They shall be constructive, so in the beginning, they shall be constructive of porous pervious, but then later on, hard surfaces are not required. That to me is not clear.
All right, but I believe it's talking about areas that are different from each other.
Yeah, well,
This one is talking about abutting the waterway and the other is not.
The
It's
other
not
one is
specific
townwide.
to waterway.
we could, it's just putting that encouragement, we could frame it as a positive. So you could say, notwithstanding the foregoing, when such walkways, patios, or other hard surfaces abut a canal or lake, etc., such hard surfaces may be constructed of non-porous
Yeah.
/ non-pervious.
That's what
I'm just trying to figure out how to
Yeah.
get the encourage back in there, but
Yeah,
I
How-
think
you could
that,
say,
I think it's
however,
more
they are
parallel
encouraged.
that way. I think that's why it reads, because it says, I think then it's a little more parallel. So we could change the wording around.
yeah,
think
it
that's
probably
necessary.
is, but if you put it that way, people are gonna see that first, and then they're going to not bother with the encouraged to be pervious.
I mean, we can write it as encouraged. These are encouraged to be constructed of whatever, but it is permissible to maybe put at the end, it is permissible to use non-porous and pervious.
I think we wordsmithed it enough.
I just want it to be very clear that it's permissible to do these things.
To be non-porous and non-porous.
Right. That's what I want. We can make those revisions.
And with those provisions being made, how does everyone feel?
Mayor? I'm just wondered if I could ask Ms. Allen, this basically allows the side setbacks for pool decks, et cetera, to be reduced to 4 feet on each side. Is that right? From 12 feet?
The side setback, again, only if it's, no, this is the side setback for pools. If you look at,
For pool decks. So
Right.
you're saying that they may extend to 4 feet from the property line?
if they are abutting a waterway.
I'm just wondering why we're doing that and why we're reducing the amount of green space, lawn and so forth, reducing it from 12 feet to 4 feet.
Okay, if you look at page 25 of your packets, you'll see under 30-68F1B, the swimming pool deck provision is still there, right? So swimming pool decks must be set back at least 20 feet from the front property line and at least 4 feet from the rear or side lot lines. Again, what this provision is saying is that if you're abutting a waterway, right, then you can encroach up to the seawall or the property line, whichever is for the lanes.
Well, almost everything in town abuts a waterway, first of all, and second of all, so my question remains, you're changing the side setback if you abut a waterway with a pool deck. Therefore, you're reducing the green space by 8 feet on each side for as long as that deck extends.
No,
Well, I don't know.
But
if
it's
that's
I don't
not-
very-
understand
yeah,
this.
No,
it's not the side setback, it's the back.
it's the rear.
It's the rear
rear
line. It's
setback.
not the sidelines, number one. And number two, while it's a good thing to
But the fourth,
request that people have green space,
but this
I
is,
don't think we have the right to insist that people do that. That's taking away somebody's property rights.
but hold it, it says 4 feet to the closest property line. That would be the side.
But, yeah, but they're talking about abutting the waterway,
Right, when you look
which
at,
is the back line.
right, when you look at the homes Even the condos, it's usually the rear property line that is abutting the waterway, not the side.
I know all of this, but you're still, can you, okay. Maybe I need to draw this out. So you're saying that a home or a townhouse on a waterway can build the pool deck all the way out to 4 feet on each side.
Not on each side, just well, in that case, it would be the rear. The rear is usually where you're abutting the water. Wouldn't necessarily be on the
And
side.
So but the abutting property line would be the side. There's no
Says-
abutting property line on a waterway.
It says
That
abutting the
isn't the
waterway.
side.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
That's
It's
where I'm
abutting the
confused.
water.
Okay, I believe you may be under the impression that the pool deck is currently required to be 12 feet from the property line, which it is not. It's 4
That's-
feet. So we're not changing that. We're only eliminating the rear setback of 4 feet. But
Okay,
I
thank
believe
you.
you're under the impression that you
Yes, I
have to have
was.
12 feet to the
Yes, I
pool deck
was.
from the side, which that's to the building, to the structure of the house, but not to the pool deck.
Got it. So the pool deck already exists that it can extend to 4 feet from the property line. Thank you. That's what I
The
thought.
12
I
feet is the
didn't
building
think,
setback.
but now I understand. Thank you. Got it. Got it now.
Anybody else?
I have one more thing, Mayor. If it's of help. Maybe you think I'm too much into the history, but in 2013, this architect, the first of 4 spec homes on my street, which is why I have this, lobbied the building department at the time, 2013, and provided all of this data as to why the rear setbacks should be, or at least for this first of his 4 homes, should be actually approved to extend to the property line at the rear and beyond. And then 8 variances were provided by our Board of Adjustments and Appeals. 7 out of 8 requests were granted to extend such following this precedent. And at that time, 94% of all variances for all purposes were approved by that board. And so, first of all, I don't know why this gentleman in contention didn't go to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. He could have processed his request by this method. And second of all, I'm saying if we have this many requests, it would lend itself to moving forward on this ordinance today. If we have 7 of 8 requests just being okayed as it was.
I can tell you, if you went to adjustment and appeals today, you wouldn't have gotten it. They would
I
have
understand.
rejected them.
I do understand that, yes, sir. And I will provide these to the clerk to give to you all for a later
pretty-
time.
Pretty ancient now, but
But
it was
it bears,
totally out of control back then.
yes, sir, but it bears a look because you'll see where this ordinance came from. And now I understand the side portion, so thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So are we going to vote on this?
Yeah,
with-
it still needs to be read by title. You want me to read it, Linelda, or do you usually read them?
No.
The mayor usually read it, but
Oh,
if you want me to read it, I can read it.
Oh, no, I'm happy to read it. We hadn't read it yet. That's why I was asking.
Okay, you ready? Ordinance of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending section 30-66, other requirements in section 30-68, supplemental district regulations of the town code of ordinances to modify certain encroachments into the setbacks for the properties abutting a waterway, canal, or lake, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for the severability and codification, and providing an effective date. We need a motion.
Okay, I move that we approve this change to ordinance 30-66 and 30-68 with the change in language saying that under 1A, that non-porous or impervious and non-porous materials may be used.
The motion.
Okay, we have a second.
I second the motion.
All right, John.
And by the way, Commissioner David, that was excellent.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossick Simon,
Yes.
Mayor Hillman.
Yes.
Motion passes 5.
Okay, we're on to C, proposed ordinance amending to the zoning code chapter 30 to correct several Scrivener's errors. That's on page 30. Well, this is a no-brainer.
Well, I could talk to you about this as well.
Okay.
So the ordinance before you again pertains to several Scrivener's errors that are found in chapter 30, which is the zoning code. There's also some obsolete provisions that are provided in chapter 30 that are addressed in this ordinance. These are specific to public notice and to vertical datum. So the obvious intent of the ordinance is to correct these inaccuracies. And we always strive to provide better clarity and efficiency of the zoning code. So on page 31 of your packets, I've gone ahead and provided those sections of the code that we're proposing to revise. These are specific to the obsolete provisions and then a justification for each. If you go to the top of page 34 in your packets, that's the ordinance proposed. You will see that there's a section 30-33L. You could see that the current code currently references 300 feet as the mailing address radius. Now, I did reference in your agenda memorandum that back in 2019, actually on September 19, 2019, the commission approved ordinance number 19004, which changed the written noticing requirements from 300 feet to 500 feet. Now, for some reason, this particular section 30-33L still remained at 300. An error, these things happen sometime. So we're going to go ahead and strike through that and be consistent with that ordinance 19004. Teresa, if we could go to slide number 1. I provided this to the planning board as well. It's just a slide that I prepared that shows that ordinance back in 2019, 19-04. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but I've gone ahead and circled all those provisions that were changed going from 300 feet to 500 feet. There were several sections of the zoning code that were changed. Again, this particular section was left out, but there's the references in red are going from 300 to 500. Also under that L, you'll see that we're proposing striking through some text with regards to the official tax roll, an affidavit. Again, this language is outdated. The current public notice provisions in our code, which is 30-46, already provides information on getting a property owner's list. I've gone ahead and provided it in the table. It has to be obtained from the Palm Beach County property appraiser, so on and so forth. So we want to be sure that this section, there's a cross-reference to the public notice provisions of the code. Everything matches and the proper section is cross-referenced. On the bottom of page 34, you'll see section 30-33 and 11. You'll see that the reference to the National Geographic vertical datum is crossed or strike through. Actually, this is not the appropriate name. It's actually National Geodetic, but it's in the code as geographic. Anyway, the new vertical datum is the North American vertical datum of 1988. This is the currently accepted standard reference datum in the United States, and it actually superseded this National Geographic, National Geodetic vertical datum of 1929. So we want to make sure that that is corrected. And just food for thought, just more of a FYI, staff, any type of plans that are submitted currently, whether it's for development approval or for a building permit, staff requires those elevations to be in NAVD currently. So again, we want to be sure the code reflects that correctly. And then the Scrivener's errors actually correct some cross sections, or just say section cross references in the code. There's a maybe off by one number. We've gone ahead and corrected those in the ordinance. And there's also some renumbering errors, and we're fixing those. Those were specific to an ordinance that the commission adopted earlier this year in January. And this again went to the planning board on May 13th, and the board recommended approval 5-0. I'm glad to address any questions.
Ingrid, I could listen to you all day.
Really?
Excellent, thank you. Anybody have any questions? No.
No.
Okay, I read this into the record at the beginning, so all we need is a motion.
I move that we accept resolution number 21-006 as presented. Wait, that's the wrong one.
Got a second?
This is a proposed,
Ordinance. Oh,
yeah, this,
okay.
One more time.
Yeah, I recommend that we approve the proposed ordinance amending chapter 30 zoning code to eliminate several scrivener's errors.
I second it.
Can we do all? in
yes,
favor?
roll call.
Do you need a roll call on it?
Sure, yes.
Okay. roll
Commissioner
call.
David,
Yes,
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossick Sideman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Aye.
and Mayor Hillman.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
move on to.
So that
page-
takes care of errors and encroachments. Right?
Right.
it fixes things that are wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, move on to consent agenda. Page 40, resolution number 2021-006. Budget amendment, police vehicle. Resolution of the town of Mission, Town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending resolution number 20-017, which appropriated funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget and providing an effective date.
Well, we have Matt come up. He's got to follow that act to see
Matt.
if you'd like to hear him all day.
No. Come on, Matt. You got 30 seconds.
This is just a budget action to move dollars associated with police vehicle purchase. We had leftover funds. We appropriated approximately $250,000 for the re-roofing of Town Hall. And that project was completed at about $141,000. So there was dollars available in the sales tax fund to pay for this vehicle. This just moved the funds.
Done. Need a motion?
Okay, that's resolution 21-006.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, I move we approve resolution number 21-006 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No unfinished business. Move on to new business, page 45. This is to approve a purchase order for a 2021 Ford Escape four-wheel drive hybrid vehicle. Amount of $29,961.80. You're going to have to put the nickel in yourself. Department's code compliance vehicle. All yours.
Oh, there it is.
There you
Sorry about that.
Okay,
Is that better?
much better.
I'll put my radio voice on now. Okay, the building department is in need to replace our inherited repurposed 2014 Ford Police Explorer that has more than 123,000 miles and more than 14,000 engine hours. In the 2020-2021 budget, the building department did not budget for a replacement code compliance vehicle, and it was going to delay the replacement until the 2021-2022 budget. The request to make this purchase is now out of the normal budget cycle, and it's due to the condition of the vehicle, which includes chronic air conditioning problems, noises, reliability, hubcaps that keep falling off and cracking. Waiting until October 1st puts our department in line with other October fiscal year cycle departments that will be ordering this particular hybrid, which at the time will push the build and delivery time frame months into next year. It's currently on a 12 to 16 month delay as of right now. The Ford Escape hybrid with the town's commitment to sustainability. And Bartow Ford utilizes the current Florida Sheriff's Association bid price for the 2021 police package vehicles. Now, this is not a police package vehicle, but we're going off of their budget or off of their contract. The cost of the vehicle is $29,961.85, which includes all lighting and required equipment. So we're having them just do a complete build out for everything so we can have the everything. The radio will just click right back in and the laptop will fit and everything else like that. As far as impact, I cannot find any impact to the fiscal 2021 budget, and at the present or existing permit fees, it's not going to touch that. The building funds for the purchase will come from the existing unassigned fund balance within the building department special revenue fund, which is most definitely available to fund this purchase if anyone has any questions. And if you look on the next page, page 46, you will see the bid from Bartow Ford under the sheriff's contract. Nothing fancy.
Great. John, any question?
I just was wondering, 123,000 miles, what is the expectation for the life of these vehicles? I mean, is it 100, is it 125 or 150?
I do not know. This was originally purchased as a police vehicle. Maybe the Chief Hartman has a better idea of what they're expected. But I do not know what the life expectancy is.
I think
it would already be life expectancy for the police department and then was repurposed to us.
Right,
So-
right. No, I understand. It's just, whether it's for the police or for you, these hybrids, I was just wondering if there is an expectation on their relative reasonable life expectancy without getting to the point where they fall apart on the road.
Well, again, I don't know. So he just ordered one. You already have one, correct?
Yeah, so the hybrids are relatively new into the platforms. Really what gets us here, especially with police vehicles, is idle time. That's why we always see the report on engine hours. Those cars are constantly running 24/7, just sitting. The second big factor is the salt air really takes a beating to these vehicles. So those are the two factors we really have to look at more so than the actual mileage. The hybrid does reduce our fuel consumption, and the code car probably runs very similar to a police vehicle, maybe just a few days less a week in actual runtime. So, we're learning a little bit more on the hybrids to see how they do over the long term, but it seems to be the model to move to, and it does help us a lot with fuel.
Well, and I would think that regarding this particular purchase, you can't operate a car in Florida in the summer without air conditioning. And you don't want hubcaps falling off. So whatever the expected life was for this, it has exceeded it because it's falling apart.
And this butte will be auctioned off, so anybody interested?
You mean the new car that is falling apart?
Okay, so Peggy will take it.
I mean, this seems to be a no-brainer to me. It's not coming out of our general budget. It's coming out of the building department's fund. So I don't know what the question is. You got a falling apart car, it's got to be replaced.
Right. Peg?
No, sounds good to me. All my cars fall apart. We're always in the shop.
Okay.
Natasha?
I agree.
I just have a question that has nothing to do with the car. I want to talk about the unassigned fund balance,
Yes,
a little off, sorry, but it's substantial.
yes.
How is that being funded? How long have we had it?
Matt?
Just chat about that a little bit, Matt.
Yeah, so Matt will jump in, but we really put this in place. I think last fiscal year, we put the special revenue fund in place. Matt put that together. And the building department had a really good first year under that enterprise, that special revenue fund. And that's how that fund built up to do that. But again, we hold it to, I think this will go into another wonderful topic on reserve percentages, right? And the state makes us report back to them on the building fund as part of the audit and stuff that comes back out. And we will be hopefully bringing some stuff to the financial advisory board, what percentage of that reserve before you have to start making other types of adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, it's 800 plus, right?
Yeah, and that came mostly, as Marshall said, the first year that it was set up. We can massage that going forward where we can not make as many increases in permit rates and burn down some of that. But there's a certain cushion, which we haven't really determined a firm number yet, but there's a certain percentage you're going to want to keep within that fund just to have a buffer through economic cycles where there's heavy construction periods and lighter construction periods, just to sort of balance things out over the economic cycles.
Does that money have to stay in
Yes.
in the enterprise?
It does. It does in that special revenue fund. But we intend to make sure that the building department pays its fair share of administrative costs that are expended within other departments, namely the finance department, where we're providing procurement services and payroll. And there's a number of
Doesn't the building
refinements
department,
that we'll make in those administrative charges.
I get all that. I'm with you. But I think they need a fire truck.
We call those special response vehicles, so they're not particular in any.
We'll put
I mean, they're putting fires out all the time with code enforcement. So that's firefighting to it. Okay, thank you. I have no problem with it. It certainly makes sense. We need a motion so that we
Mayor?
can move forward on it. Yeah,
Sorry, real quick question.
Sure.
Are there any grants available since we're looking at utilizing these hybrid green vehicles? Would there be any special government subsidization for those?
We'll keep an eye out for that. Chief and I hope to bring back the first full electric to the fleet in the next budget cycle. So we are going to look at that to see if there's grants to help us set up charging stations and or other type of incentives. But we'll take a look at that once hybrids really don't fit totally in the model yet, but the full electric does have some abilities to draw out, some assistance there.
Jeff, did you want to say something else? Okay. Okay, so we need a motion so Jeff can buy another toy here. No, so he can get his car. No, you need it. Anybody want to make the motion? No?
I'll make a motion. I haven't made one for like 6 meetings. So I make the motion to approve the budget resolution. Sorry, I need to make the statement of what it is. 1 second, I'm not very good at this.
We're actually on item 11A.
See, I shouldn't have moved
You
forward.
can approve item 11A.
You're on 45.
I know. I jumped
you
ahead.
can
Hang
just
on,
say
I
that-
got it.
We really don't have a
Sorry.
number on it.
We don't have a number,
You can
so
just approve spending the 29,000, blah, blah, blah.
correct. I make the motion to approve the allocation of $29,961.85 towards the Bartow Ford purchase for Mr. Remus and his building department for code compliance. Thank you.
I
Second.
second that motion.
Okay,
Sorry, jumped
all in
ahead.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. No
Now we're-
drag racing.
We're on to item C, which is found on page 53.
It's actually item B, the resolution 2021-007, the budget amendment for the building department replacement vehicle.
That's the transactional resolution.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
first we approved the
Thank you.
purchase and now we approve the resolution to approve the purchase.
Okay,
The
right.
funding mechanism.
So we need the motion on that.
Okay,
That would be resolution number 2021-007, which is the budget amendment for the building department replacement vehicle.
okay. I move we approve resolution number.
I just did it.
Okay,
All
I
we need is a
seconded
second.
that.
Aye.
Aye.
Now we're on to item C, which is on page 53, resolution number 2021-008, which is the settlement between the town of Highland Beach and 1006 Grand Court LLC and Richard. Resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, approving a settlement agreement between the Town of Highland Beach and 1006 Grand Court LLC and Richard Touche regarding a petition for writ of
Certiorari.
What? Help me out there.
Certiorari.
Sherari, thank you. Challenging the planning board's denial of an application to amend a previously approved 10-post platform boat lift located at 1006 Grand Court and providing for an effective date. This was discussed earlier. I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Len to
Yeah, I'll
bring us
just,
up to date on this.
sure, Mayor. So the case involves an appeal, a petition for writ of certiorari from the planning board's denial of a petition to amend a previously approved boat lift to amend the height of the pilings from 4 feet, which was depicted on the plans, they weren't actually scaled out, to 7 feet. So the terms of the settlement agreement are that the town agrees to allow Mr. Touchette to construct them at the 7 feet, which is essentially what the expert said was necessary in this particular case. In return, Mr. Touchette agrees to dismiss the petition for writ of certiorari filed against the town and to pay the town $2,500 as reimbursement for attorney's fees.
John? Let's start with you.
In my view, after the discussion, again, this is not something that is going to make anybody really feel good. It's not a win for either side. I do want to avoid litigation. I think under the circumstances, this is a reasonable compromise. And so as much as it's an unfortunate circumstance, it is very unfortunate. It should not have happened, but it did. And here we are. So I would agree with the settlement.
Peggy?
The town went to court about 3 years ago and won against a homeowner who had unlawfully broken codes and docked a boat. So I'm not totally against going to court. But it's a crapshoot, like Mr. Rubin said. And I also heard from one resident, though I'm sure there's many before him and will come after him who are severely opposed to a settlement. But I do have to listen to our attorney, and he feels that we should settle. So with hesitation, I'm voting to settle, though in a perfect world, I wouldn't mind going to court because I'm not afraid of going to court. And I think that this is an example of mismanagement by past building departments long before our current very wonderful building department. So I'll vote to settle, though I hate to do it.
I'm also voting to settle. I sounded like through the discussion, it was an issue at the planning board approving this because I just want to make it clear that this was approved twice by the Highland Beach Planning Board. And so now we are in the position that we are in because of those two previous decisions. And it seems like to me, we're just down to the height of the piles, which are most likely going to be, part of, what the reasonable height will be going forward once we revise our code. So I also am agreeing to settle because I just, if we didn't have these prior approvals, maybe we would be in a different position. And maybe I would just take this opportunity to emphasize to the boards that we do have here in Highland Beach how serious our roles are. And this is a really good example of why we have to be very thorough and do our due diligence when making decisions. So I think I just don't see any other option other than to settle, because I think we would lose based on the fact that we've already approved, the planning board has already approved this twice.
It approved the location twice.
Approved the
Yes, Vice
location
Mayor.
twice, right?
All right. I understand the legal principles, and Len is not wrong. We're stuck with what a previous planning board agreed to, and it's much like you'd be stuck with what a previous commission did. That being said, I am not going to vote to approve because I think it sends the wrong message about people being able to inhibit their neighbor's use of their neighbor's property. And that needs to be a message. We need to say you can't interfere with the quiet enjoyment of somebody else's property. So understanding that I'm going to be on the losing end, I still will vote not to accept it.
There's a number of things that come to mind on this. I'm going to start by building on what my associate just said, and that is the critical importance of decisions that planning boards make. And I'm not sitting here to blame our current planning board, but when subjects come to the boards have to do research. They have to physically go and look at the subject. There's been a lot of discussion about the ability of other boats to get by. Is there enough room? Well, that has to be dealt with by going to look at it and to know in advance. You have to physically be there before the subject comes to your board. And that applies to all boards. So the proper research has to be done at all times before the subjects come to the boards. Because we rely on our boards, and the boards are critical to the future of our town. The commission obviously can't do everything. We look to our boards for guidance. We look to the boards for the decision-making that they have. We don't want to take decision-making away from the boards. We want to give them more authority. If the boards have more authority, more and better people will want to serve on these boards. So, lesson learned. Second, the people that are going to be living in Braemar and looking at this, what you're looking at is an additional 3 feet over the 4 feet that is the expectation. What's there now is 12 feet. So the 12 is going to get cut down to 7. So 5 feet are coming off of it. So it's only going to be 3 feet higher, 1 yard higher than what your expectation is. It ain't perfect. We don't live in a perfect world. Compromises have to be made. Whether we will win or lose if we continue to fight this, I don't know. It's a crapshoot. Nobody knows. And like my other associate to my left, I'm not afraid of court battles at all. Fortunately, I score pretty well in court battles, okay? But I don't feel confident about this one. And I don't because we have approved it. And 7-foot pilings can be found around the town. This would not be the only 7-footer. That's kind of a difficult one to win. So settling does appear to be the right way to go. We're not getting bullied into this. We're not acquiescing to a gentleman that has not been neighborly throughout the whole process. We're doing what we believe is best for the entire town. Yes, it's going to be a big boat and it's going to block people's view, but it's going to be a big boat blocking views even if it was 4 feet. This is just 3 more. Therefore, I would vote to do it reluctantly, but I think it's the best move for our entire town. Does anybody have anything else to add before we move on? No? Okay, back to you, Lynn.
I don't know, is there any public comment on this or no?
There's no public comments for this item.
Okay, well then it's just, we would just need a motion from the commission to
Okay.
approve the resolution.
We need a motion. Want to make one? Nobody wants to make the motion? Go ahead.
Reluctantly, I make the motion for resolution number 2021-008, settlement between the town of Highland Beach and 1006 Grand Court LLC and Richard Touchette to, do I keep reading the whole shebang here? That's it?
No, that's
Yep.
fine.
That's close enough.
The rest of it is here on record.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, need a roll call.
Commissioner Gossett Simon,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Commissioner David, Vice Mayor Moore,
Aye.
and Mayor Hillman.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to D, which is resolution number 2021-009, Charter Review Board Member Appointment.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Just quick question on the second paragraph of this summary. There are 2 words at the end of the paragraph. I'm not sure if they should be stricken or if they're just an incomplete sentence. It says on May. Are we
That
missing
was-
something?
That was,
I don't know where you
that
are.
was, we
Second
changed,
paragraph?
we changed the memo and it probably we forgot to take it out of your packet.
Okay, so just delete those 2 words? Thank you. Thank you.
I do have all the applications if you all like them. They were also emailed to you all
Yeah, I
earlier.
have them.
Are you able to get a copy of this up to John?
When I can resend it to him because I did email everyone the applications, but I'll
No,
resend.
just this one from Mr. Powell, so
Okay,
John can see it.
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
John, we'll wait on you so you can get it and review it.
That's good.
Okay. So Peggy has suggested that the whole team discuss which individual should serve. And in my mind, it's either this gentleman, Mr. Powell, or Dr. Greenwald? I think we all know Dr. Greenwald, so we don't have to look at his video. It appears to me that David Powell has a very strong background and would be a good candidate. I think what Dr. Greenwald has going for him, not just his background, but he is totally up to date on the town. You know, he knows what's going on in the town. He comes to town meetings. My guess is he's probably sitting out there right now. How you doing? Okay. I don't know David Powell, so I'm guessing that he probably is not as up to date on the town's activities as Dr. Greenwald is. I was not happy with one of the questions that came up in the first charter meeting. And one of the members asked Marshall about our capital funds. And do we have a capital fund? It was clear to me that he didn't know what our town does. He doesn't follow our town. So why is he sitting on the board? I mean, clearly has a background to it, but should know that we've got capital funds and that we have a capital plan. So I think that's critically important. So that's my 2 cents. Anybody want to jump in?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Greenwald, I felt was a very serious candidate all along. I had 2 goals in originally nominating Mr. Katsky because I've been very forthright about trying to get new people in town to serve. And secondly, I had in the back of my mind an ethical question if one could serve on 2 boards at the same time or serve with person with whom he serves on another board. And so Dr. Greenwald also, though may not be understood by everyone here, but he has worked on charter reviews for Boca Raton Regional Hospital many times in the past and served as a political physician liaison. And I know this just because I've known the fellow for 22, 23 years, very knowledgeable with town issues. So if an ethical considerations with the state and our charter are resolved, I'm just fine with Dr. Greenwald. And if not, then Mr. Powell certainly looks as a very proficient possible candidate. But I'd like to make it a team decision because it's an important decision. And I respect everyone's opinion up here, and that's important.
Okay. John, what do you think? Can't hear you. Still can't hear you. There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to mute. Believe it or not, the fire department is at my home and they're testing because I have to pass an inspection for selling the house. But in any event, I was listening. I don't know the person obviously, but I would respect, I think the summary that Commissioner Gossett-Simon gave. So I have no problem.
Okay.
I have no problem. I don't know Mr. Powell, and I'm just not familiar with him at all. Dr. Greenwald, I know, and I think Dr. Greenwald is eminently qualified. And has been pointed out, he has been involved in things in the town, and he knows or has seen things that have worked and things that haven't. I think before we deal with this, we need to deal with how we're going to deal with the rest of it, with people being on 2 boards, because he's already on a board. So
Well, we've taken care of the 2 boards. Now the last question is the ethical question that Peggy brought up, and we'll have an answer from that as soon as
okay.
practical.
Well, that being said, because I'm familiar with Dr. Greenwald, I would say yes to Dr. Greenwald. And it's nothing against Mr. Powell, it's just,
We just don't know.
we just don't know him. And he, you know, we haven't interviewed him, we haven't anything, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the charter review board, it probably is important to have all that background instead of coming in so cold. To, you know, with, I mean, he has obviously a lot of business, but if you were to come in cold, like you know, maybe at least if he had, like Steve Patsky was a previous mayor and had a master's in public administration. So maybe we could encourage him to do financial advisory board. I think that would be a really good way to start to get involved and for us to get to know him, and then we
Love
could
to get him
do-
on the
I
board.
mean, I think that would really be helpful to us
You bet.
and to get to know him better. So if we could encourage him to volunteer for the financial advisory board.
Okay, and if we end up with a ethical problem, he's obviously a backup, so. Okay? We in agreement? Okay. You got it. Dr. Greenwald.
Should we take,
Unless we have,
should we take a vote?
I think everybody just agreed.
Is that okay? Okay, formally, okay.
Okay, I'll let him know. Again, 3 will be resigning for a short period of time.
Right,
So, but this is a resolution.
yeah, okay, I
Are
guess we
you-
do have to vote, yeah.
Yeah, you need a motion to approve the
Okay.
resolution.
Well, it's your pick, so you make the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I make the motion to approve resolution number 2021-009 Charter Review Board Member Appointment to ask and seek Dr. Ricky Greenwald to serve in such a capacity, or Richard, I should say, sorry. Richard Greenwald to serve in such a capacity pending the final decision of the state or county ethics confirming that that is acceptable. And if not, then seeking Mr. Powell to serve in such.
Perfect.
Very good. I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we are on to town commission comments. John, we'll start with you.
Okay, on the charter itself, I had detailed my comments for the town manager. Marshall got them in email, but I'll make references to first Article 2. Municipal powers. Is it all right if I comment on each of these?
Go right ahead, whatever you want.
So on municipal powers, section 14(1)(4), comments about drainage and so forth, you know, I have to, as I am the advocate for swales, ask the question, can we include swales somehow in this section? Does it make sense in terms of encouraging the construction of swales for both past as well as present situations?
Commissioner Shoemaker, are you going through your email to me on charter review stuff?
Yes. Is that appropriate at this point?
I don't know that it's necessary. I mean, I'll share it again to the list and everybody will have your comments. I'm just not sure
It'll
for
end up-
commissioner reports, you need to tell us everything you want in there.
No, well, I thought the question from the mayor was, do I have input on what we've read in the charter so far in terms of maybe things that should be included? If you want to pass my email to them, that's fine too.
Yeah, that'd be an easier approach.
Okay. Then I have no other comments. I would say one thing, how we can somehow address a public safety office, the establishment of a public safety office, a little bit different than what we've had in the past, obviously, that we might have going forward, and how that should be treated. Anyways, that was the obvious thing that came to mine. I'm sure it came to yours as well.
When you mean how do we, you mean the educational campaign? Is that what you're referring to?
No, establishment of a public safety office, given what we need to do with fire, EMS, police for the town.
That's next week's meeting.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Okay, Peg?
Thank you, Mayor.
You
Couple
said-
of updates.
Oh, I'm sorry. I looked at you and
I
I said
know.
Peg.
Oh, you go ahead. No,
You did, I even saw that.
I talked a lot already.
Do you ever see the person say no?
We'll talk together and really confuse people. Spring fever, you go.
Okay, I have no comments at this time. These other topics are things we will discuss at a future date, so I'm not prepared now.
Thank
That
you.
was funny.
Okay, couple updates. Last week I met with Representative Caruso in his 5 days in town before he went back to Tallahassee. And here's what is happening. He is continuing to follow up on Senator Polsky's concerns about FDOT and repairing swales from 2015-16, which was then deemed that they would do in our town. And working with Commissioner Shoemaker's background too and research I'd done, he is attempting to get a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting with FDOT with Mr. Labadie if he's available, and see if we can't repair some of the most needy, terrible areas of A1A. If they can't do everything on the 53 sites remaining, then let's tackle the worst ones. And they provided to us a 2017 agreement between the town and FDOT, which was before all of our time, which provided more responsibility to the town to make these repairs. But that doesn't really account for the actual digging and heavy duty work. That's a maintenance contract, not a gutting out of the swales and putting them back to where they should have been 71 years ago. So I'll keep you all posted as we go forth there. And I'm also seeking grants to alleviate those swale flooding problems. FP&L, Representative Caruso called his vice president contact to say, please get out to Highland Beach, change out the streetlight outages and trim the trees. And the Chief Hartman is giving me the thumbs up that apparently this is moving forward. The residents should not and do not need to make the tree trimmings around the poles for safety and financial reasons. And you can't be, using your landscaper or your own family up there trimming trees around electric wires. So we're pushing for that. I know we're a small town, but we're an important town. And we're all tired of being ignored by any federal state agencies who think we're too small. That's my feeling. On the interesting home point, Representative Caruso reported that in his district, which is Boca Raton through Singer Island and basically I-95 eastward to the Atlantic Ocean, the average home value increased in 1 year. And the fourth quarter of 19 was 1.2 million average home value. Now in the fourth quarter of 2020, it's 2.3, nearly doubled in 1 year, which should be an interesting note for our tax base. Lastly, I did provide to Town Manager Labadie, and he sent forth the updates in his manager's minutes. And everything is as I stated recently, with the exception of a new update on the derelict vessel bill, which plays into effect here with our waterways and our ownership and those who have authority, that Senator Polsky's bill did pass. And if you look in the Palm Beach Post website from yesterday, there are hundreds of people living aboard boats in Palm Beach County for financial reasons and just enjoyment reasons. But this bill covers the entire state except for Monroe County, which is the Keys, which is home to many, many people living on boats. And it allows only 45 days for a boat to moor in the state waters at a time. It limits their anchoring areas, and it limits the areas in which they may anchor. They may not include any field or marina. They must be anchored clearly near signs and buoys. And it's bill number, here we go, Senate Bill 1946, if anyone's interested in looking it up. And the reason this came into play is in Broward County, there are waterways completely clogged by persons living aboard boats, which do not allow passage. So I wanted to update everyone on that. Thank you.
Peggy, I have a question. That doesn't apply to people who are docked at a dock, of either private dock or within a marina. It's just really for people who are moored out.
Yes, ma'am. I do believe, Marshall could check it. I believe we have an ordinance that disallows docking in the town anyway. For example, in the Bellito Lakes or the waterways. I believe we have that ordinance in place in the town. But that wouldn't, we needed a statewide ordinance. But no, it doesn't. If you want to go sleep on your boat at night, it's fine. I
No,
don't think
because
it
I
applies
had
whatsoever.
friends who lived on their boat, but it was in a marina up in West Palm Beach. So it wasn't like they were moored out any place. They had a slip that they stayed in.
It states here, the bill provides that each anchoring limitation area must not include any mooring field or marina. So I'll copy you all on this so you have it. It's just of interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anything.
No report. Okay. First, I want to congratulate Natasha on your letter. Extremely well done. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Second, Marshall and I have our first condo presentation on fire rescue coming up this week. David Stern contacted me. David's the chairperson of the Financial Advisory Board. They have a meeting. He wanted us to update his people on it. So we put together a little show time, little PowerPoint. So that'll be a little test run. Okay. And so we'll show
That's a great idea.
what's going on.
That's great. I think that's a great idea.
What was that?
I think that's a fabulous idea, the outreach to help
Oh, yeah.
people understand and help them feel comfortable.
And it's good to start with David, who
Yes.
obviously we all love. He's
Absolutely.
dear to the town. Okay. So we'll let you know how that goes next week, obviously. And we'll show you what we showed them, and we'll continue to add to it as we go along. And that's all I have. I'll turn it over to you, Marshall.
All right, Mayor, thank you. We've made a lot of progress on the fire side. I'll just kind of keep, maybe we'll just do that next week. There's a lot that we're making progress, just for those that are listening, just to give you a little taste. We got a medical director, we've got a PR firm, we got a forensic accountant, we have people interested in being advisors to us. We're reaching out into the community. We're making good headway. So we'll go over all those. I sent you or yesterday afternoon, I sent you the implementation plan that has all those tasks and the description of all those tasks. So you know that, we're really making some good headway starting this process. And I think it just picks up with.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? Please? If anybody asks, how much is it going to cost to do all this? I've been telling them 8 to 10 million. That's the one-time startup costs. So let's just be consistent. If anybody asks you, that's the number. Okay. And we'll give you the details of it, obviously, but 8 to 10 million, that includes a 20% just on top of everything, just in case. Okay. Sorry.
We'll give it to the low end. You know how I am. So fire's going well. You had a public comment. Chief Hartman and his team spend a lot of time trying to deal with these bikes. I don't want anyone to take away that we're not working on this issue. It's a vexing issue for all of us in South Florida because it's a very popular sport, a big group. They're non-cooperative when you try to work with them. Most of the time they're good. There's a couple big groups. I think Paul was out there, what was that, about 2 weeks ago, and got on the siren because they just kind of started taking them, and they're all making belligerent comments as they go by to the police. And it's a difficult group that a lot of us are trying to figure out how to, because they're not like an easy group to control and pull over. I mean, you can't just veer off and have the bikes crash, and they tend not to be to listen all that well. A1A is a very popular location, but we are working on it. I know Chief Harmon works with a lot of the bike groups in the area, and we're trying to do that outreach and try to find a way to get that, ad hoc groups of 5, 6, 15 that just, hey, I'll meet you Sunday in Fort Lauderdale. We'll go up to West Palm. Those groups are tough to do. So as frustrating as it is, just be careful with that. But we are making some progress. It's probably not going to be perfect progress. The laws do provide some flexibility for bicyclists, share the road. But we are spending a lot of time. I don't want that takeaway that you heard earlier is that, we're not doing anything. It's very important to us, the police department. So we are working on that.
I have a question about that. So is there, I'm sure other towns have the same issue.
Yeah.
The Florida Department of Transportation. I mean, I imagine you're coordinating the
Yeah, you wanna-
response.
There you go.
So yes, thank you. Obviously, this is not germane to
Right.
Highland Beach. This is A1A from Miami as far up as you can go. So I will tell you that we spend more time than most. Then I'll tell you they have other municipalities that they deal with the same thing. We have 2 bigger municipalities on both sides of us. But because we don't have a bike lane, we deal with some of that issue. We have focused on these groups on the weekends they're not the regular bicycle clubs. They just kind of show up and they're a group. It's a challenge sometimes to get turned around just to get to a group if you're passing them the other way. Some real challenges on the weekend, the volumes of traffic at times. But I will be talking to Commissioner Seidman for some of your contacts. We are supporting some legislation right now that we understand is trying to make it to a bill at the governor's level about single file where a substandard lane, and substandard, it means a bicycle and a vehicle cannot traverse in the same lane together safely. And that's what you have along most lanes of A1A because of the size of the lanes. So we certainly are supporting that, and we can hopefully get some support on some of the legislation that helps, because some of the particulars of the law about passing each other and moving and being able to have use of the lane. But we spend a lot of time out there trying to keep that safe. We just recently had FDOT do a study for us with speeds, and we're researching that right now, volume, speeds, timeframes, and we put a lot of work into FDOT. It's their road, and we work them hard to try and help us get some relief on some of these issues. Certainly the safety stuff with all we do for pedestrians, bicyclists, crosswalks. We hosted for the state here. We brought them down a little more than a year ago. Brought them into town and had the local police departments up A1A to meet with state representatives to give us that best information on specifically that bicycle safety, pedestrian safety, A1A, the things we can do with our traffic, education, enforcement pieces of that. So it's certainly ongoing.
So are they breaking the law by doing what they're doing?
At times they are, and the difficult thing is trying to isolate. You have to write a ticket to somebody, and where the law says that you can pass other bicycles that are moving slower or anything else in the roadway that's impeding them. There's a technical piece to that. So, and where they say there's a substandard lane, you don't have to move all the way over to the right. So it's a challenge as a bigger group of trying to get somebody stopped and actually identified. Usually when they see us or we get in behind them, it just straightens right up and they'll be compliant. But there's different groups. The local bicycle groups don't like those type of groups because they follow all the regulations, the laws, they ride safely. They're great to work with. We've had meetings with them on Boca Raton Bicycle Club and some of the other ones. So it's an ongoing thing. We know even one bicyclist that's over to the right can make it challenge for anybody to pass.
I know.
We've all driven that. And we get people that don't even drive 25 that come through town.
Yeah.
And slow is not a bad thing. You have to be patient. We like the slow speeds. It makes it safe for everybody coming in and out of side streets, bicyclists, and people trying to cross. So lower speeds are not bad.
Well, the scary thing I see is when people are driving slowly, then you see people passing.
Yes.
And that is so scary because you don't know, how can they possibly see a pedestrian? Or someone who, like I've had it making a right out of Bellito and someone is coming northbound and they're passing. And I mean, I'm always afraid I'm going to get a head-on collision. The passing is so bad.
Yeah, and that's the same problem we run into trying to catch up to those people, get to those traffic stops. But we see that. I think it's for that improper passing when we can.
Chief?
Chief, could I ask a question? If my own experience, it is really amazing to see a pack of bicyclists coming down A1A of 30, 40 bicycles. And if they're 3 and 4 abreast, you can have 10, 15, 20 rows, and they're all moving at 25, 30 miles an hour. So that's fast for a bicycle. But here's what I keep thinking about and what struck me just before I left to come up here. If one of them goes down, it's going to be what they call a yard sale. I mean, there's going to be bikes going every which way, and these cars are following either close behind or trying to go alongside of them. And of course, the bicyclists are aggressive because they feel like they are the dominant player on the road. So they are in a dominant position and they don't like to be, pushed around. So I think eventually we're going to have a mess. And you can't stop them from coming on A1A at our town limit, I guess. But at some point, if they don't get the message, I think you do have to stop such large packs that 1 or 2 of your officers are simply not going to be able to deal with them. There's too many of them and they're going too fast, right? And then they can scatter, and so you grab 1 or 2 and give a ticket. It's not really going to be a good solution. I just fear that it only takes 1 bicyclist to go down and obstruct all the rest behind him, and it's going to be a real disaster. And I think the public comment from in the very beginning of the town meeting, I don't think he was unreasonable in terms of the issues. I think he may not realize, what you can do and what you can't do, and what's also practical. But I think being able to communicate with these groups is going to be a key to preventing a potential disaster.
And thank you, and I agree with you that we've reached out to FDOT for their educational piece to put that out to the different bicycle groups, different clubs that ride not locally in our county for sure. And we do have that. You do see where the bicyclists actually rub and hit each other and they go down, not so much in the large packs. But yeah, as the large packs are moving, they're actually moving at the speed of traffic on some of them. Really not even impeding it. But it's certainly a challenge for all the municipalities that have to deal with it. It's all the way down to Fort Lauderdale where they have that same problem.
Yeah, right.
Chief, I wondered a few years back, your department, I think, spearheaded the departments from Boca to maybe South Palm Beach or maybe Boynton, which would be Ocean Ridge, to have a cohesive Saturday police force out in all towns to coordinated to help reduce the bicyclist problems. Is that possible? We could maybe employ one of those again?
Sure,
now then to
and
help
our
with-
challenge with that is just that it's such an ongoing process. The minute you stop doing those things and you're not able to have that type of motorcycles and additional resources that can hop and skip and catch them, it can revert back. We're hoping that this proposed legislation would help with that single file because then it really puts them in the legal piece where they have to follow and takes that type of riding away. And then we can do a bigger effort. And we've been asking the FDOT for that all along. It's hard when you get to one little section of this county. If you're not doing it all the way at every place else, it's hard to keep them in line like that. So, but it's an ongoing process for us. Believe me, it's not ignored. The manager gets some of our not so much, but we have the bicycles are the people that do ride and the people that ride in town. Everybody else, they're fantastic. I mean, they want to follow the rules. They don't want to interact with the motor public if they don't have to. Usually if you have a problem with them, it's because sometimes the vehicles engage that problem. So we bought the messages from FDOT is to share the road. That's a little confusing to everybody. So the bicyclists think they have their right to the road too, and it's a real challenge. We're working at it at a bigger level than just us, hopefully.
Do you need a motorcycle?
Nope.
No, electrical, not even electric. Thank you.
I think he wants one.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Staying on police a little bit, I missed giving a kudos to the police department from Miss Gilden, who did the volunteer for Aaron Vitas Foundation. The Vitas Foundation. They had a little walk through town a couple weeks ago. Very thankful for the police, especially Jeff Miller and Officer George for helping out the walkers and putting a car out there and keeping track of them so they were safe during their walk on the weekend. Also, kudos, I sent you that information, getting that stolen vehicle and being part of that larger BSO sting operation on this network of car thieves. So we were able to do that. Kudos, Chief, and to your team for looking out for the residents and their property. Other than that, a couple emails we've seen. We haven't talked about it a lot, which is good. Maybe we can get rid of these things, but COVID seems to be improving. The COVID situation in general seems to be improving. CDC provided some flexibility on the masks. The numbers are holding. Total positivity rates are staying in check. With that being said, we're looking, I'll be meeting with department heads this week. I believe that's tomorrow, correct? Yeah, tomorrow. And we're going to start planning for opening of facilities more to a typical. And so we're going to talk about full hours for the post office. Library will be just walk-in service. We're not going to do groups and rooms and card clubs and the political debate teams and stuff. We're going to keep that off because we don't want the density yet, but we'll be able to, so people can come in. We'll finish the final touches on this building. It may be that you can come in, but you got to check in first. We're still going to probably require the mask to the greatest extent practical while people are getting used to this. But we're looking at a June 1 rollout where we'll slowly move back to some sense of normalcy and let everybody, again, there's not a lot of folks have been knocking down my door saying that they feel restricted. Like I said before, some of the services that we do provide, Zoom, curbside service, we're going to keep those things going. So I think we learned a little bit here how to improve service, which is good. And we'll keep that going. But June 1, we're going to look to that bigger open of town facilities. And then we'll revisit it probably next season when all the snowbirds come back. Maybe we'll start looking at opening the rooms and clubs and getting all that stuff back to normal. But other than that, that's all I got.
Len, anything to add? No? Okay, anybody, anything? If not?
Can I make a comment, Mayor?
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
So just for Marshall's sake, Massachusetts, being as liberal as they are, have basically been shut down with this COVID. I mean, even this past weekend, some restaurants are only open 25%, maximum 50% capacity. You have to wear masks. And they even check temperatures in some of them. It's really amazing how locked down the state is. Yet, yesterday, the governor has declared everything's open. No restrictions whatsoever on anything, except for hospitals, care centers, elderly facilities. But even at Fenway Park, fully open, no limit on crowds, and no requirement on masks. It just seems that masks are going to be individual decisions on whether they want to protect themselves for whatever reason. But if they're vaccinated, and there doesn't seem to be any reason to hold off much longer. And even especially for our own town meetings that we encourage citizens to attend and get involved by coming to the town hall. I just think that we're done. And I think Florida's been leading the way in that. I do have another question. And in fact, I meant to bring it up earlier, but the fire alarms were going off. Electric vehicles. It's just another issue that's popping up, and I think we're going to hear more about it, where citizens are looking for charging stations. In fact, it's come up in the condo complexes, and I know Highland Beach Club is one of them, where some of the residents are saying, look, I'm thinking about getting an electric car, but we need charging stations. Has the town thought at all about having a charging station at the town hall area?
Yes, we applied for a grant before COVID. We haven't heard anything, but yeah, those are those grant things again that we were talking about. Yes, we're trying to get people here, maybe one by the library, one by here, Public Works. Again, if we move to more electric fleet, we'll put in more of those. I know that Eric Officer Aronowitz is looking at that for the PD, kind of doing some of that recon for us as to what's involved, how expensive, and then we could share that with condo groups too. And maybe we could all do a cooperative purchase to install them if you want.
We did an extensive piece of research on it at our development. We were looking at doing it for the whole development, and Ron Riami headed that up. So give Ron a call. I'm sure he'd be very happy to share all the information.
Oh.
We thought it was premature. Yeah,
Premature?
premature.
Not enough people are buying the demand.
No. So you run into couple of things. One, if you don't have the quick charge, which is the stage 3 level, people just don't want to hang around. They don't want to leave the cars that long. Then you run into being concerned about, is somebody going to hog the station and leave their car there, for a day when all they have to do is get it charged up to like 40% or 50%. You don't have to have a full charge because most people aren't going to drive that far. So there are a lot of elements to this. It's not just, let's go get a charging station. Okay. And, but let Ron bring you up to date on it. You did a good piece of work as he usually does.
Yeah, we have also found that people have asked about it, and our general response is that if you want to run the line to your parking spot in the garage, go right ahead. The building isn't going to stop them. But it's kind of a circular problem, and that if you had them, more people would get electric cars, but people don't want to get an electric car if they don't know that there's going to be some place for them to charge it, which kind of makes sense.
And it's also easy enough to, when one gets these, you can have them so that, people use their credit cards to charge it. So that we're not paying for all the electrical use. That's the easy part. The other thing he found is that the technology is moving so quickly that whatever you get today,
Right.
6 months from now, you're going to say, oh man, I should have waited 6 months.
Right.
So let Ron,
Okay.
I'm jumping around, let Ron chat.
And the costs will undoubtedly come down as
Absolutely.
they more and more are used.
If I could add, those are very good comments. I didn't know that, Mayor, about Ron Riami, but I think for the condos where they have open parking spaces that they could establish, say, a group of 5 or 6 guest spots and make them charging stations. The issue is they have to run electric lines underground, under the pavement, just to get to the charger. That is not, inexpensive, to say the least. Anyways, it is a subject area that we're going to get pulled into as we go forward, for sure. Just thought I'd mention it. Thank you.
Part of the future, no question about it. Toscana put them in a few years ago, thought that they were going to get a lot of use. They're not getting the use they anticipated.
Mayor, there was a bill at the legislature regarding gas stations, which did pass, but the provision requiring them statewide to include electric chargers was pulled out. So just to keep you updated.
It's real. There's no question it's real. The only thing is timing. That's all. It's, is it next year? Is it 3 years? Just a question of when. Okay, are we finished? Okay, 3:54, we will adjourn. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.